We get to about 2,000 meters. And all of a sudden, there's an energy in the plane, and the other skydivers are getting excited, and I look over at this other guy, still not breathing. We get to 10,000 feet, 14,000 feet eventually, with like 3-4 kilometers above the clouds. You can't even see the ground. Developing the right mental foundation. Because unfortunately, most people, right at the beginning, start businesses for the wrong reasons. Or they get involved in companies for the wrong reasons. And for me, myself, certainly in my early days, in my 20s, it was all about trying to prove I was good enough. It was all about trying to get over insecurities as a young man to try and show the world that even though my teacher said I'd never amount to anything, that I could still do something. And it was a two-edged sword. On one hand, it made me successful because I was working hard, but on the other hand, there was no fulfillment. And I see and meet a lot of people that spend all their time climbing the tree, getting to the top, only to realize they're in the wrong jungle. And it's no fun, because you design yourself into the equation where you get trapped. And it's very hard once you start climbing halfway up to let go. But the right mental foundation, what does that really consist of? Well, I get asked all the time, what is the one key to becoming a successful entrepreneur? Everybody always wants the one key, don't they? What's the golden pill? What's the one rule? And there's many rules. Life is an orchestra, not an instrument. But if I was to share with you one insight, one distinction, one organizing principle that I've seen time and again make the difference between successful entrepreneurs and those that just get the bat off their shoulder barely and take a swing at life, it would be this: the ability to handle uncertainty. In fact, Tony Robbins, a gentleman I've had the very good fortune of working with for the last several years, states it beautifully. He says that the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty we can comfortably live with. Say that again, Tony. The quality of our life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty we can comfortably live with. Very profound. But when you start to understand there is no certainty in life, certainty doesn't exist anywhere in nature. The only difference is the tree doesn't stand there worrying if it's going to get blown down by a storm tomorrow, unless it's in Cape Town, right? So the ability to handle uncertainty. Well, you see, here's how most people handle uncertainty, or if they're given an opportunity, for example. Most people come to an event like this, they take their time, they get their liquid capital, and they're presented with an opportunity, and they're like, oh, quick, let me just dip my toe in. Yeah, anyone know any of those guys? Yeah, the sort of toe dippers, right? And they say, oh, look, so they take their liquid capital and they pour a little bit in like that. Oh, not too much, don't want to risk it. What happens if it fails? Yeah. Oh, it seemed okay, let's try it a little bit more. Oh, okay, starting to get with it now. Yeah, things not going too badly. Yeah, okay, I might risk a little bit more, right? And I start pouring more and more in, but nowhere in nature have I seen, my friends, it support the notion that tentative is power. Doesn't. Tentative is no power. The challenge is if you embrace opportunities in life a little bit at a time, rather than swing the bat, then you're really going to be the Johnny-come-latelys. You're really going to be getting the crumbs of the people that decided to take action and move forward. The challenge is that most people live with the fact that, oh, well, what happens if my entire world falls upside down, everything will tip out? Well, guess what? No, it doesn't. Right? Now, your fears are an illusion. I'll guarantee that. Not that it means anything what I'm going to say for the next 5 minutes, because you're trying to figure out how I did that. Right? But seriously, you're going to have to learn how to take risks. Right? I want to share with you, if I may, just for the time that we have, everything I learned about taking risks in a 60-second experience. Would you like to know what that was? Yeah? Okay. You seem like a pretty switched-on bunch. I just want to do a quick sanity check here. How many people have ever jumped out of a perfectly good airplane? I thought I was in the right room. Okay, quite a few of you. And for me, I'm a skydiver. I skydive to relax. And it's a beautiful sport. And I always wanted to skydive, and ever since my mum caught me jumping out of the apple tree at 6 years old with an umbrella. It was always going to happen. And so what happened was, a few years back, I decided I was going to make this happen. I was going to take action. And again, I told you I come from England. You can never skydive in England because the cloud base is always 2,000 feet. So I went to Florida. Guaranteed weather, nice and beautiful. And I thought, I'm going to go and get my license. So I took a week off out of my business and I flew to Florida. And I thought, well, it can't be that tough, can it? I mean, you jump out of an airplane, you pull a cord, gravity does the work. I was quite wrong. I got there and I wasn't expecting the amount of overwhelm and ground training that I had to go through. I sat for 8 hours of classroom training as soon as I got there. I had to learn everything about what your equipment does, how it works, what happens if it goes wrong, all about aerodynamics, plane entry and exit procedures, hand signals in the air, wind patterns. I mean, it was overwhelming. And as you've heard some of the speakers say, the emotional route is that overwhelm usually leads to confusion, which usually leads to inaction. In other words, people learn so much they do nothing. And for me, I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. I just need to go back to the hotel. I just need to get my brain back right. I was looking for certainty. And so what happened was I was just about to go out of the door, go back to the hotel, read my notes, and the instructor comes running in. He says, hey, Pete, guess what? There's one slot left on the last jump of the day, the sunset load. We're on it. Uh-oh. Anyway, I walked back in the room, I put my jumpsuit on, I got my rig together, and we walked out to the plane. And for your first jump in skydiving, your first solo jump, you actually go with 2 instructors. They're not attached to you like a tandem, but they jump out either side, and I guess if you forget to pull your cord, they remind you, right? So I go out, and I get on the plane, and it's full of experienced skydivers. And there's one other guy on there as well, also his first jump, also with his 2 instructors. And I look across, and he's like this. In fact, I don't even think he's breathing. And I'm watching this guy. Anyway, we belt up, the engine's cut in, we hurtle down the runway, we start to take off, and we're circling to altitude. We get to about 2,000 meters. And all of a sudden, there's an energy in the plane, and the other skydivers are getting excited, and I look over at this other guy, still not breathing. We get to 10,000 feet, 14,000 feet eventually, with like 3-4 kilometers above the clouds. You can't even see the ground. And the red light comes on, and everybody starts getting excited. The door opens, and this icy blast comes in. And then the green light comes on, and all of the experienced skydivers, they get up, and they go to the door, and they high-five, and they somersault, backflip, and they're gone into the abyss. Whew. It's just me, this other guy, and our 2 instructors left each inside the plane. Anyway, he's nearest the door, he goes first, I'm happy with that. He gets up, and he walks, and he shuffles, and his entire physiology is just like, when you just know somebody's not going to do it? And he's like, and he grabs hold of the handles. And the first instructor turns around and gives a question. It's a legal question on your first jump in America for insurance purposes. He says, are you ready to skydive? And you've got to give a positive answer. And he's like this. Nothing. This guy. Are you ready to skydive? Right? And I'm looking and thinking, he's not going to go. Anyway, he looks out. He breathes. He lets go, closes his eyes, and he jumps. Back inside the plane. Right? And I'm thinking, it ain't going to happen, right? Anyway, the instructors, they're quite professional. They see this all the time. They get him back in state. They get his belief system in place. They bring him out. Okay, he's back in the door. Are you ready to skydive? I'm thinking, jump. Right? He's like, are you ready to skydive? Right? Nothing. I think that's it. Forget it. Sit down. My go. Last instructor, last time. He goes, John, are you ready to skydive? He looks up. He goes, no. Right? This guy goes, what was that? Go, 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 and throws him out. And then they jump out after him. I'm like this. And I go to my instructors, I said, did you see that? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, why did they do that? And I'll never forget what they said. They said, well, it's quite simple, really. If you don't jump, we don't get paid. You know, I'm like, ever had those moments in life where you always knew it was ever going to be a one-way ticket, right? And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm in a perfectly good airplane that I've never jumped out of before. I've never flown a canopy. I've got 16 things to do in order and sequence when I leave the plane in order to pass my first exam. I've got all this stuff to remember that my life depends upon remembering, and the only two guys I'm left in the plane with have a financial incentive for throwing me out. I mean, it was yeah, sometimes you just need a dig in the ribs, right? And life will come and do it. Anyway, so we take so long on this guy, we have to recircle back to the drop zone. We come up, I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Get up. Okay, 15,000 feet. Okay, I can do this. 1, 2, 3. Guy goes, are you ready to skydive? I'm thinking, you're having a laugh. Like it makes a difference. Right? Okay, I can do this, Pete. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's a long way down. No, wrong, folks. Come on, I can do this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and go. Whoa, whoo, and arch, and whoo. Oh, I'm falling. Whoa, okay, and check altitude. 10,000 feet and falling. Instructor 1, check. Instructor 2, check. And instructions. Okay, practice ripcord pull. Here we go. 1, 2, and go. Circle of awareness. Check. Altitude 7,000. Locking on. And knees bent more. Arch more. So relax, easy for you to say. Okay, here we go. 6,000 feet, we're going on 5.5, locking on, ready, 1, 2, 3, here we go. And, please open. And I went from 220 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds, which taught me something else that day. You should never really get your straps wrong. But I came through, I landed perfectly on the drop zone, and it was like the most incredible experience. And I even saw the guy they pushed, he was on the ground too. He had this huge smile from here to here. I don't know if it was because he enjoyed it or he was glad to be alive, but I never saw him again. Right? So I'm there, and I'm rolling up my chute, still full of adrenaline, and I suddenly start to realize something like, whoa, hang on a minute. What just happened? When I was in the airplane, I was anxious, I was confused, I was overwhelmed, I got all of this emotion going on. The second I stepped out of that plane, everything changed. Fear, gone, left it in the airplane. Overwhelm, haven't got time, I'm in the moment. Anxiety, too late, I'm falling. And it made me realize how many times in our lives have we sat inside the plane. Part of us, more from our heart, knew it was time to jump, and our brain kept us where it was that we were sat down. How many opportunities, how many people that we didn't speak to, how many girls, guys that we didn't ask out, how many situations that we've consistently learnt to talk ourselves out rationally when all we needed to do was step out of the plane.